I bet we probably collected certainly $1 million. Maybe it's over $2 million just from the brand deals. We've worked with a camera brand, and it wasn't even necessarily the performance of the video they ended up signing. It was us showing them what we had already sold for them through Amazon. We just pull a report from Amazon Affiliates, be like, we already sold like $1 million in your brand. And they're like, all right, cool, here's 6 figures.
Okay. I want to give you some tough love here, Sean. Are you ready?
Please, don't hold anything back. I'm coachable. Tear me down.
I feel like this should easily be $1.5 million a year business for you, just on brand partnerships. There are lots of brands out there who would just simply get stoked about being able to say that they are aligned with Sean Cannell and Think Media.
But how would you balance that in the right now or the next 3-6 months with kind of looming recession? There's the psychology the brands are in of like, play it safe. Election year, there's a black swan coming. Sometimes negative comments I'll get, they'll just be like, bro, your channel is dead. And I'll be like, I guess if 7 million views a month is dead. One of the things I like to say is, you know, I see you in the comments, but I never see you at the bank. Hey, my name is Sean Cannell, rhymes with YouTube channel, and I help people start and grow profitable YouTube channels.
We go way back, and to see the growth of Think Media over the last number of years has been incredibly inspiring. And so today, wanted to dig into how you've approached sponsorships over the years. I'm wondering if you could take us back to the early days of when you got your very first sponsorship and what was going through your mind.
Well, the early days, and thank you so much for having me. I started a channel in 2011, I believe, with my friend Jeff Morris called Think International. And it was mainly an interview show, kind of ahead of its time in terms of that's 14 years ago or 13, of faith-based leaders and pastors about kind of church leadership and kind of church creativity. So that was Think International. We ended up getting to about 10,000 subs, posted 250 videos. But the tech reason we were able to start that was Jeff was more the talent. He was the on-camera interviewer, and I was the videographer behind the scenes because I had a video business as well called Clear Vision Media, doing wedding videos and everything like that. And what ended up happening was I started getting some questions about like, how are you guys doing this? Or how are you producing these videos? What gear are you using? And our approach to it was a little bit unique because both Jeff and I, he grew up surfing, I grew up snowboarding. We both kind of were in that skate culture. So I actually look back and kind of cringe, but like we had like a fisheye lens that we were using for everything, which is kind of unflattering and weird. It looked like in a way a GoPro enhanced, but it was also different in the editing and the music and all the stuff and wireless microphones. You know, today my company's called Think Media. Originally, the only reason I started the channel was that thing was called Think International. And then I was like, well, what about these media questions? Well, let me start a thing called Think Media. So it was also, for years, it wasn't even my main focus. I was doing Think International with Jeff. I had my Clear Vision Media portfolio video production channel. And then I also, in those days, everybody wanted to become a famous vlogger. I mean, everyone wanted to just kind of be a traditional big YouTuber, but kind of like make videos about whatever they want to talk about. So I kind of was leaning more to my Sean Cannell channel, which I teach out of that because it was so random.
3 guys freestyling while they guess he bottomless.
I had no vision, no value proposition, but I was just my life kind of vlogged. I did cooking videos, movie reviews. It was super random, but learned a lot in the process. And the whole time, Think Media was cameras, tech, social media tips, YouTube tips, not as much YouTube back then, but more tech and lenses and stuff. So the first brand deal I want to say was with Caddy, which was this kind of skateboard designed kit, and they also had lighting that would mount on there, and they had a bunch of tripod camera accessories, and all they did was send us, I mean, it's pretty cool, but it was like maybe $1,000 worth of gear or more. And I was beside myself. I mean, this was now again, 2010 or 11. And seeing the early days, if sponsorships were happening at all, just this idea that like, man, I could get free stuff related to my passion and what I already know to be very expensive. Man, what if one day I could get sent a free camera? What if I could get software for free? So that was one of the early ones. VOD burner. Before there was Riverside and StreamYard, it was how do you record Skype calls? How do you do what we're doing right now, but like actually capture the footage? And so there was a software called VOD burner. And again, I think they hooked it up for free once we could say, hey, we're an example of someone using this. You know, fast forward, we can come back to it. on how brand deals was not my initial primary focus in terms of thinking about the sequence of how I wanted to build my creator business. But in the early days, when I stepped out full time just as an independent creator, was around 2015 and all in 2016, basically January 2016. And FameBit was integrated into a separate website, and then eventually it was used, and then it disappeared, the name. So there's a couple early deals through FameBit and some weird stuff too, because you just kind of shop in the marketplace. And I remember one was like a luggage scale, but I was like, sweet, like $300, like and I'll make a video on this luggage scale. And I was still very much traveling and doing freelance video, so I was thinking about integrating these different products into camera bags, lighting, and something as funny as a luggage scale, and just going through and clicking deals and seeing who would approve me. So I think some of the lessons I learned over the years is I started to get clear on my value. I started to get clear on my value proposition, clear on branding, clear on personal brand. And fast forward to today, I actually haven't done the calculation, but I bet we've probably collected certainly $1 million, maybe it's over $2 million just from the brand deals vertical at Think Media now. But it hasn't been our primary focus. This is one reason why we're working with you and wanting to learn from you. And I've definitely thought team first, meaning I saw how much energy it took for me to manage it. So I approached it previously with a couple team members that have transitioned, and recently we have a new guy, Mark, and having somebody that, even if it also has been like an ad early on, it was having kind of like admin help, admin assistant or integrator, and able to pull it off. But those are some of the early ones. And so I've had my toes in the industry, nowhere near your depth, but for well over a decade now of doing a few things.
So what you're telling me, being so immersed in skating culture, is you have a Thrasher shirt underneath that button.
That's right.
Is what you're saying, dude.
Oh, Toy Machine, Thrasher, Birdhouse, dude. Early days.
I was a skater too, so we can bond over that off camera.
Alien Workshop. Okay.
Yeah, dude. Okay, I want to dig into something interesting. I was actually surprised that you referenced some of those early affiliate deals as brand deals, where they were just either sending you free stuff or they were maybe giving you a kickback commission if you sold stuff.
Yeah, free stuff plus affiliate.
I get this question a lot from creators. Is like, what is actually a brand deal? So like, do you consider free stuff plus affiliate commission? Do you consider that a brand deal, or do you think a brand deal is purely when they're going to like, plop down a flat fee for me to create a video?
I mean, you're the expert. I consider it under the umbrella of influencer marketing for sure. And I consider it, the reason I would say yes. That's where I would stand. And the reason I would is because just like anything, there's something about just getting in the game. There's so much better information now. But even saying that, there's something that you just learn about going through the motion, jumping through the hoops. So it was working with a brand. We made a deal. They may not have even had a public affiliate program, but now they're sending me free stuff and giving me a way to monetize. So if it's not by, I would agree, a paid brand sponsorship would clearly be paid. But I think anything that you could do to start working with brands, it's taught me a million lessons. That was way too much work at many levels. Sometimes when I paid a lot of money, it was still wasn't like, wow, like they were really frustrating to work with. And by the time I really add up how much energy and revisions and all this stuff. And so over the years, what I love about just getting into the game, getting a deal that's maybe just free stuff, is you're just honing your back and forth communication skills, learning the ropes, learning where the blockers are, learning where maybe some of the frustration points were, and cultivating your own framework for what does winning really look like. Protecting yourself a little bit maybe, and I learned this even in my video production business. If you didn't clarify how many revisions people got, you learned to clarify in the contract how many revisions people get after someone asks you for 10 revisions, and that wasn't clarified. And you're like, well, shoot, I guess I really don't have any recourse except for I just don't want to do this anymore. This is the last revision you get. So, but you can always begin again more intelligently by having a few deals under. So that's kind of how I thought about it. Our influence wasn't huge. I want to say that when Cam Caddy also worked with us, and it definitely wasn't 2024 when it was micro and nano influencers, or even the term influencer marketing. I would argue it didn't. I don't think influencer marketing was even said in 2010. Maybe, but I don't think the term had emerged yet. So saying that, I also did feel stretched. Like, man, they're sending us this, I can't remember, with 1,500 subs, 1,300 subs. And I know that this stuff is becoming more structured today, UGC creators and stuff like that. But that was also part of it, was like there just wasn't many options. So summarizing to add value to the listener, sometimes I know you're going to pitch people. I would say the same. Raise your value, know your worth. Totally. But sometimes it's also like just get some experience under your belt. That's kind of what so it's brand deal experience, in my opinion. And experience under your belt just seasons you and teaches you lessons that you never know until you're in the actual fray of going back and forth with the brand, getting the final product out, deadlines, how quick they respond or don't respond, all that kind of stuff.
You mentioned a bit earlier about the lift required to actually pull off some of these deals. And early on, when you didn't have a lot of operational or admin support to manage deadlines and timelines, and when you had to deliver drafts and like all this stuff too. And I know that, you have a big education part of your business. And so has that been your preference to date? You're like, I'd prefer kind of working on digital products and info products and ways in which we can support people, coaching, et cetera, and not brand deals so much. Brand deals is just kind of icing on the cake. Or like, how have you thought about brand deals? It sounds like you maybe have had an evolution as of late. I want to take a second to thank today's sponsor, Uscreen. Now, I work with a lot of different types of creators, but I've got to say, YouTubers and video first creators in particular always seem to have the hardest time monetizing. It's usually AdSense and maybe sponsorships for the most part, right? But when I ask why they haven't considered a membership, most either stare back blankly or say, they've just never considered it. Now, I believe that especially long form video creators have a unique advantage to serve their audience on a deeper level through a membership, because viewers sticking around for 10 to 15 minutes are a lot different than those that swipe away after 30 seconds, right? And you guessed it, video memberships are exactly what Uscreen specializes in. In fact, Uscreen has helped creators make more than $150 million by providing the tools, infrastructure, and education to design a membership that your audience will thank you for. I talk a lot about how important it is to involve your audience in these types of big business decisions, to not just create a membership in a vacuum without asking what types of features they want or what type of content, whether they want a built-in community. And once you have that, the good news is that Uscreen can do it all, including live streaming to chat rooms, even branded apps for creators. You might be familiar with Yoga with Adriene. She has an app called Find What Feels Good that was built by Uscreen, by the way. And her value proposition is basically, here's my entire video catalog, no ads and exclusive content. And you don't have to be a gigantic creator to build a lucrative membership either. There's tons of niche creators that have built a super meaningful income with their memberships as well. Now, I know I piqued your interest, but maybe you're sitting here thinking, I'm a little overwhelmed and I don't know where to start. Well, that's why Uscreen created a free educational resource called Membership Plus that teaches you how to build a successful membership from start to finish. I've even got some exclusive videos that I've done with creators like John Yushai on there. Okay, the most important reason that you should check out Uscreen is that they're just awesome people. I've had multiple chances to hang out with folks on their team like Rob and Srey at a couple recent conferences, and they just could not be nicer and more dedicated to serving the creator community. So if you're a video first creator interested in learning more about how to build a profitable membership that will get you off the social media hamster wheel and finally create stable, predictable income for yourself, well, click the link below and tell them that Justin from Creator Wizard sent you. All right, let's get back to it.
Yeah, well, this actually would be my overall philosophy that is kind of in business and my approach to YouTube in general. A couple things. Certainly, I'm not saying it's the only way, but it is my way and it's how I think. Number one, you could be in education or entertainment. It is my belief that education offers a lot of advantages because entertainment is for the 1% of 1%, a lot of times of talent, charisma. When music channels come to us, not that are going to educate on home studio or something like that, but are just like, how do I be the next Justin Bieber? I'm like, we're probably not the right people for you. In fact, there's probably not a right person for you because some of that, like, I don't know, sing better, get lucky, when it comes to entertainment. Now, there are best practices. So I lean education, number one. Number two, I lean evergreen. I am obsessed with evergreen. And I think the business term is leverage. So what I mean is, as soon as I discovered YouTube as a search engine, and I discovered it's the only platform where your content can live forever, and it's the only platform where if you get views every day, you can get paid every day from multiple streams of income, leverage became kind of my primary filter. This has really affected the way we work with brands, because even sometimes maybe critics or haters look externally and they'll be like, oh, Sean's washed up. Maybe I am. Sean's, look at his channel, look at the subscribers versus the views. And I'm like, all right, well, but you're always looking at the most recent upload. Like it's a search-based, keyword-rich tutorial, product review, product comparison, product tutorial on a niche product of some kind or category. And you're like, oh, you're only getting 10,000 views, let's say, or something. I'll be like, well, bro, did you check back in a year though, dog? Like what did you see that video? Now the video has, that's not crazy, but now the video has 68,000 views. But here's what you didn't see is that evergreen ranked video is literally paying me every day. At this point, ad revenue every day, maybe $10, $20 or less if it's small, which is insane because you just compound that, but then affiliate clicks. So where this is coming with brand deals in my hesitation was the negatives being, I now have a boss again, which I've been resisting. The only reason I wanted to do this was for freedom, leverage, and autonomy. But now I have someone to answer to, which I'm fine with, but I just felt that pressure. And now I have a deadline. Now, of course, I still need to hit deadlines, and you're not gonna be successful in any business endeavor if you don't. But what I loved was I could create a video and then I could just ignore that video and it could pay me passively. Whereas if I, oh man, now I'm missing the deadline. I feel this pressure. I feel this stress. I got to get this script done. I got to go back and forth. Now, secondly, it's also, we've had to evolve our pitch to brands because what they see is a lot of times they want to return in a 30-day window. They want that immediate return. So they're like, what's your average view per upload or something like that? So we've also had to say like, listen, we just kind of approach things different. I understand the way that our library of content could look like. It can be hard to sell that maybe the average video is going to cap out at 20,000 views on the channel or 18,000. But we also could point to examples. There's a reason why. It's like one question, one answer, not optimal. It's a clip from a podcast. Like, of course it's not good. But like, and we're also in the creator education niche. So it's different than a broad appeal, whatever. Punchline is when we showed evidence to the ranking ability and the evergreen ability, which has been difficult to communicate to brands because they're like, how can we trust you on a 365-day timeline? And partly as good as I am at this ranking thing, we developed a whole system for it and it's super consistent. Again, it's also kind of a numbers game. Like I'm gonna upload 10 videos and 2 will probably really crush long-term, 4 will do well, and some will probably plateau. And there's a risk of, is that the brand one? So sometimes that's why it's nice having more than a one-off video. We always shoot for maybe 3 months, 6 months, year long. But I think one other, nuance that's interesting here, that's macro. It's evergreen and education and kind of search-based that I've leaned towards. And so that's actually why the flat fee is sometimes less interesting to me. And I'm even coaching our team why actually the kicker or the performance-based or the affiliate commission. So sometimes when we recently did one deal, it was like, do you want 25K or do you want 20 in better affiliate terms? I said better affiliate terms because I know my own confidence that the way I'm gonna do this is evergreen and we might earn more. And I would rather take that risk. And then 2, there's been deals where like we've worked with a camera brand and it wasn't even necessarily the performance of the video they ended up signing. It was us showing them what we had already sold for them through Amazon. So we had approaching $1 million in top line revenue. Now I only get 4% of that, but still grateful for the 40K off Amazon Associates. But we just pull a report from Amazon Affiliates, be like, we already sold like $1 million in your brand. And they're like, all right, cool, here's 6 figures. Like right. It's kind of actually a reverse way of doing it. You probably know other examples that are similar to us, but we kind of have a flipped example. And by the way, it's a flipped example, a flipped model to most creators. Because a lot of creators, they're putting out like a great video with a curiosity-based title, tapping into a little bit of drama and trying to kind of go viral on that video. But the other thing I look at is I just look at like using vidIQ competitors. I'm still like, there's some big creators. There's not a lot of people just touching our monthly views. So I love the sometimes negative comments I'll get. They'll just be like, bro, your channel is dead. And I'll be like, I guess if 7 million views a month is dead, then maybe it's dead, but not a lot of channels necessarily pulling 7 million views a month, mainly off of library of content, ranked content. So then when you have ad revenue plus affiliates, stack on top of that your own business. And exactly, yes, I just realized I have created more leverage and more evergreen leverage. Because if I create my thing once and sell it over and over and over again, then I didn't just start a new relationship, new conversation with a brand, new boss, work for them for a while, collected some money, but now I'm back to square one. I'm back to square one, and now I need to sign another deal. And so I love brand deals, but sequentially, It was first rank videos and affiliate marketing, then the compound effect of AdSense and affiliate marketing, then create my own product and build out leverage around that. And brand deals came a little bit later in our journey, and then build team and infrastructure and systems that this could be a little bit more sustainable and take stress off of me. And then of course, this is a part of, I believe a dynamic creator economy business. And that was the order that I've approached it.
On the subject of you being washed up, I saw a tweet yesterday randomly of the top 33 YouTube advice channels, and you were number 1, and your podcast was like number 6. So you were in the top 10. Both of your channels were in the top 10.
Bro. It's just funny because
I don't know if that holds water.
No, but I honestly, I love these negative comments, and one of the things I like to say is, I see you in the comments, but I never see you at the bank.
Yeah.
I just haven't. I've yet to have somebody come up to me, but it is kind of true. But I respect, because I think the other piece, and you would know this so well, 99% of creators, I believe, actually have a shallow understanding of business. I wouldn't even say creators, probably more viewers and kind of those people on the fringes that, and not that we even need to feed the trolls or give too much to it, but I actually have empathy because the perception is this: if it's not viral, it's not valuable. And I think that's the mistake. All they look at is I wouldn't even call it vanity metrics. They just look at views. It's just like the value on YouTube is views, but that's not true. That if you can pitch the quality of your audience, we just did a show together, right? And we talked about Tim Ferriss, who in the early days of getting sponsors for his podcast, any podcast was charging $10, $15, $20, $25 CPMs based on their downloads, pitching their value to the brand was like peak. And Tim Ferriss was like 200. It was just an exponential factor above. But the reason why is because of his pitch, because he was like, well, other investors listen to this, Silicon Valley professionals, all this kind of stuff. So size is such, like, just virality, just numbers is such a mistake. And so what people, but yet, for Minecraft 42 who's commenting on my video, they're probably like, I might, just talk about, I'm just trying to like humbly communicate just the results we're getting because I want there to be proof backing up the numbers. And they're like, oh, dude, you're just lying. There's no way. And I can understand that, because if you just see the one video that's uploaded, they don't know Social Blade, they don't know channel metrics, and they definitely don't see the iceberg underneath your business. And I think for some creators, though, and those that don't last, they actually don't have an iceberg. So they're just constantly chasing the next viral video, the next campaign. And if something algorithmically shifts or whatnot, there is a little bit of vulnerability. So that was also the sequence, was I was trying to think, what is a real business? A real business has a product to sell, and your income is directly correlated to the amount of buy buttons you have on your website. Many creators have 0 buy buttons. I'm not talking about a Teespring t-shirt. That's fine, and maybe that does well. And so I wanted to get those pillars in place, which also gives us a lot more leverage for talking to brands too, because you're always in a disadvantage negotiation-wise, right? If you're desperate. And so I want to say, those early FameBit days I mentioned, I actually kind of was desperate. I mean, we had a baseline of some good money, but I was still kind of on this, like, I hope this keeps going. Let's get, let's get some money in this month. My goal was to build via evergreen content, via our own products and services and all of that stuff, a level of reoccurring consistent revenue so that we're actually a real business with some level of predictability and stability. And to that point, by the way, is why now I hired somebody legit with a salary that lives in Miami before there's an ROI on it, probably for 3 to 6 months, to build out systems around it. And I'm approaching this less like a solo creator, more like a media company. But all that to say is, even the only reason we're able to do that is because of having some consistency in our P&L. And so again, that's some of the strategic thinking behind it.
I love it, man. I want to go back real quickly to this example you shared around showing this camera brand the $1 million of sales that you had generated. This is a really important learning lesson, because I think this is what a lot of creators believe is the only way they're going to be able to convince a brand to work with them. Like, show me dollars and cents how you've either helped our brand or how you've helped another brand achieve results. And if you can't show us that data, sorry, you can be an affiliate, but we're not going to pay you. And I want to give you some tough love here, Sean. Are you ready? Because I think that there is a tremendous amount of intangible value behind your name and likeness, behind the goodwill, behind what you represent to the creator economy. All the tremendous amount of work that you've put in over the last decade to help people. There are lots of brands out there who would just simply get stoked about being able to say that they are aligned with Sean Cannell and Think Media. And that's not a tangible asset that you really have to create. Right. And so I know it worked in this specific instance, but as we work together, hopefully, continue down the line, this is one area that I think is a big opportunity, especially for creators who are in niches, who are in specific industries, or have kind of an ownership over this like very small portion of the world that they are talking about. There's not a lot, if you think about it from the brand's perspective, there's not a lot of other options out there. If they did want to forge a deeper, more robust, longer term partnership with like the figureheads of the industry, and I believe that you're one of those people, 100% hands down. And so like, how do you assign dollar value to that? It's kind of challenging actually, because how would a lot of it comes from like the CEO of that company or the CMO or the VP of marketing being like, we need to get Sean. Like that's the charge from top down. We need to work with Think Media. I've been following them for 10 years. Like we need to make that deal happen. And so like when you have that level of top down feedback coming down from the executive team, like make this deal happen no matter what. That's your goal as a creator to understand that feedback is happening, and your negotiating leverage in those scenarios is sky high when you can kind of suss out that information. But again, if you are not interested in the outcome, if you're a creator who doesn't want to get on a phone call with a brand, doesn't want to understand what their larger marketing objectives are, doesn't want to understand anything outside of how much you're going to pay me, it's going to be easy to miss that, the forest through the trees, so to speak. So how does that land with you?
I'm all ears. I mean, coach me, tear it apart. And again, that's why we're working with you, is because this would be an area that I recognize is not our primary expertise. And I think we're doing a lot of things at a pretty high level. Not this yet. We've done it here and there, but I want to be great at it, and I see massive opportunity in the future. So please don't hold anything back. I'm coachable. Tear me down.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
And build me back up.
Yeah, definitely critically that last part. I mean, if you've done 1, maybe 2 million to date in the 7-8 years, I feel like this should easily be $1.5 million a year business for you, just on brand partnerships, and again, critically, for someone of your position and your caliber, and again, the person that you represent to the industry, I'm not thinking that this is like 200 partners. This is like a handful of partners who are in it for the long haul, who are, they may not even be concrete deliverables. Maybe there is some, the podcast and the YouTube channel and stuff, but like maybe it's you coming in and doing a, presentation to their executive team, or an all hands meeting where you're going in and doing presentations and you're serving again as kind of an extension of their marketing team, going out to a conference and speaking on their behalf. Like there's a lot of these other, maybe doing a webinar I talk about this a lot. It's like, think about like these really large organizations, Adobe, some of these large camera companies, they have lots of employees, right? And lots of customers, right? And so what are they doing all day long? They are emailing their customers, posting on social media about their products all day long. That's what they're doing. That's their playbook. It's like, what new thing can we say about our product on this Thursday in February, right? Instead, if they have a partnership with you and they're able to say, they email out their entire customer base or their entire internal company, we have a webinar that we're doing in partnership with Sean at Think Media. Here's all his credentials. He's amazing, blah, 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 blah. You know how stoked they'll get about being able to do something like that? How do you value something like that as part of it's not a deliverable. It's not a YouTube video you're making, but it's hugely valuable to the brand's credibility in the space, right? If they're able to make social media posts about this being like, we're partnered with Sean and we're doing this thing and it's awesome, sign up here, right? And so it's like, you would laugh, but like I would be in these boardrooms with these large brands and these large advertisers, media agencies. Oftentimes the reason that they would be getting ready to spend $1 million on an influencer marketing campaign was because the CEO was at Adweek and heard a panel about influencer marketing, went back to his executive team and said, we need to be doing influencer marketing. That's it. That's the reason that they're doing this. And so your mind gets blown by this. Like, really? Like, yeah, some of these large companies that are spending, Ford is spending $1 billion a year on advertising, broadcast TV, billboard, bus benches, print, yeah, they're doing digital media, right? So it's like just starting to educate yourself around, anyone listening, educate yourself around the motivations, sometimes the perverse motivations behind why brands run campaigns, and how you can help educate them, can be a game changer.
So I have questions for you. First question is paid media rights. If you did early deals and did not give paid media rights, can they just roll with that like forever?
I mean, no. I mean, if it's not explicitly in the agreement that they have the ability to run paid ads with content that you've generated in the past, that should be a conversation that you go back and have. If you did accidentally,
what if you just neglected to clarify?
And they've been running them and you just haven't said anything?
Well, I guess the big idea too is kind of like, this is interesting because you know, on websites for like a SaaS company, they use the likeness of the different people that have used it. And maybe they use it for like 10 years and maybe a lot's changed. I'm just curious. And it's not like my biggest worry, but I think the bigger question would be future is forward. I'm sort of going backwards first, but I'm wondering how much would you charge for paid rights and would that always be separated out like as a separate offer?
So
in my case.
Yeah. So it always should be separated out as a separate offer. That is an additional privilege that they get to use your name and likeness to reach other people that don't follow you if you're posting it this asset natively. I want to take a step back here. Let's go back to first principles real quickly, Sean, which is that if you've worked with a brand in the past, or maybe it's an ongoing sponsor and your challenge is resetting the relationship. Maybe you didn't negotiate things properly in the past, or maybe they've done things and you've just kind of looked the other way because you didn't know what to say. You didn't want to rock the boat, right? This happens a lot of the time. And one of my biggest pieces of advice in those scenarios is in order to properly go back to that negotiating table with that brand and not say critically, hey, I think you need to pay me more money. Because that's what most people do. I think it's only fair that you pay me more money. And the brand's like, nah, like we're good. We're happy with the way things are. Your job is to put together what I call a relationship recap report, where you go back and you pull all the videos that you created over the last 5 years or whatever, pull all the metrics, you critically screenshot a lot of the qualitative comments behind what people are saying about the brand in the comments section, or the emails that you're getting, or the DMs on social or whatever. And by the way, if you haven't done this yet, you should do this moving forward, like start tracking all this information, right? And then you put together this both qualitative and quantitative report. And you say, and this is the reason that you reach out. You say, hey, loved working with you together over the last 2 years, 3 years, whatever. We put together this, we've absolutely loved collaborating with you, and we have some really cool ideas for how we can take this relationship to the next level. And we pulled together some interesting information that we'd love to share with you. Are you free on Thursday at 10 a.m. to talk? Basically, right? And so you get on this call and you go through the report. Do you know how impressed they will be? Because here's what happens is that brands who are spending millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars doing digital marketing, is they're working with lots of people. And it's very easy. You run the campaign for 3 months, as you were mentioning, 30-day window, campaign window. They just forget, right? They run the campaign with 50 people, and now we're on to the next campaign. They don't remember what they did a year ago. They don't remember what they did 3 years ago. They don't remember at all. And to top it all off, there's been turnover, right?
People, it's two other people that actually work with you.
Yeah, they had no idea what you've done for them. And so this report allows you to summarize everything and be like, hey, we're awesome. You're awesome. We've done awesome things together. And here's proof, right? And so now this allows them to be like, oh, wow, I didn't realize actually how, tremendously Think Media has moved the needle for us over the last 2-3 years or whatever. And then that is now the baseline to have this resetting conversation. And so this absolutely is the best way to kind of go back, and some deals that you may not have negotiated favorably in the past. This is the best way to do it.
Question for you. If you think we could do 1.5 million a year, and I agree with that, in a 12-month window, if 15 brands all paid us 6 figures, that would be the math to get there. If you just really lobbed out some rough math to actually reverse engineer 1.5 million in a 12-month window, do you think it's 15? Do you think there's a 500,000 brand deal? And would you recommend kind of like land that with then a 50, a 100? Do you think there's also kind of a framework of avoiding looking for more bigger sponsors? Because I chopped it into 15. Is that too many? And there's a lot of different ways we could cite this. How would you, on a simplistic napkin plan, actually crunch the numbers from the amount of brands and the value of each on a $1.5 million business model?
Number one, you have to ask yourself, what is your comfort level in terms of volume of partnerships? Because you already told me, you expressed to me that the emotional toll, the internal administrative toll of 15 relationships or 30 or 100 or whatever the number is non-trivial, right? So I acknowledge that, and you have to make that personal determination for your own organization. That's different for every creator. You're different because you have a team. Other creators maybe are solo, and so there's a different number there, right? And so I don't quite know what that number is. What I will say is that I think deals exist out there for you between 1 and 500K. Absolutely. For like single brands. So those deals exist. And so I think it's probably going to be a mix of a lot of those types of deals. What I talk about a lot is that your sponsorship strategy, it's like a diversified stock portfolio, right? You're not going to have winners on every stock that you pick in terms of the dividends that you're getting. There may be some deals that are outsized winners over others, but you should be just as happy to, forge those lower ticket deals because it's going to contribute to your overall revenue at the end of the year, right? And so I think that it's myopic for creators to think, okay, like I have to get my standard rate for every deal. At least 15, 20K per video. I think it's stupid. It's like the most important thing that you need to think about is when you have these conversations with these brands, you need to understand, number one, what their budget appetite is so that you can ensure that you're providing to them a compelling proposal with options that fit within that range that they've told you, but also be willing to understand that, like, okay, this may not be the brand. They come back with a much more conservative budget range. Okay, this may not be the brand that's going to put my kids through college or whatever. That's okay. That's okay to take those deals. Those are going to keep the lights on, keep your employees fed, right? And then there will be those deals, the 1 to 2 to 3 of those deals a year, where it's like those are the banner sponsors, where it's like that represents the lion's share of your revenue throughout the year. And again, I don't say this to every creator, but I look at you as someone, as the figurehead of an industry. Those deals are possible for someone like you. And so again, I don't know what that dollar is, but it's like, it goes back to like, what are their budgets? What are they trying to accomplish? Because if they may have, bad example, because Apple doesn't do a lot of this, but like Vision Pro, that's a big banner launch. There's these big brands that have these big banner launches, and they're dedicating tens of millions of dollars to getting the word out about a lot of these types of, really big pivotal launches in the company's history. So it's your job to go out there and think, okay, of the 12 to 15 to 20 sponsors that we've either worked with in the past or we want to be dream sponsors of ours, what is on their radar? What is coming down the pipeline for them that they've either teased or I have surmised is going to be a really important launch for them? Let me reach out and be like, can we support that launch? Because remember, that's what they have budgets for. And so again, it could just, maybe they have $1 million for you. I don't know, because this thing's really important. So it just depends on the brand.
We recently inked a deal where I appreciate you building up what my value could be, our brand's value could be, but we were negotiating within the last 6 months of a deal that I want to say was around 150. They came down to 100. They eliminated deliverables, and there is compounding affiliates is a huge affiliate for us, but about 100K for about 12 months. Very reasonable deliverables throughout the months. But in terms of negotiating, a lot of it almost didn't matter what we said. Trying to go higher, they were like, we're capped, or we're capped for the landscape now. And they were also constricting. Now, mind you, there was quite a few even articles, and you're the expert in this industry. So it's like there was a while there where a lot of people were having canceled deals and so on and so forth. And we're blessed that we didn't really have that, but we did see a tightening of the belt. So my question for you is, in a 2024 landscape where I could launch out optimistic and like, this is my worth. And, I want to stay humble, but also acknowledge and like actually price right and have sober self-awareness of like what we could be worth. But how would you balance that in the right now or the next 3-6 months with kind of looming recession? It might not even be the math because GDP is still going up and it might be a soft landing or whatever. But nevertheless, there's the psychology the brands are in of like, play it safe. Election year, there's just like so many, it was a black swan coming. So they're going to think what they're going to think and you can't control that. Right. How do you coach people to balance not having a give up mentality and give in mentality if they're saying like, nah, this is what it is, and like not letting you go higher versus pushing a little, using persuasion, negotiation, and when to finally say, okay. And the final way to put it is my mentality, because I built this whole thing, right? From the script, I know what it was like to be like alone, my wife doing the books, and I was, of course, everything, solo creator. And I know what it was to get a free cam caddy and just literally have my mind blown or get $300 from FameBit. Also, it's like maybe a solo video a while, a year and a half ago, or when the money printer was on, I think we were at like 20 or 25,000. Typically, we wouldn't just do like a dedicated video or whatever. But I still am in the mentality of like, if it's a product we use and we love it and like they're saying, and they got 10K, I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Because the team is trying to process. I'm like, I'll take 10K. Dude, I'm a small town kid, college dropout, like $10,000. I know that we were living in that, but so I kind of I'm in this weird thing of like having realistic expectations and I don't want to call it empathy for the brand. So you can see where I'm at. I could almost be a little bit passive. Like, dude, yeah. I want to make videos anyways. Like if they'll give me a banana and a bag of peanuts, like I'm happy. Like, okay. Like I'm still, and that as I've grown into needing to be wiser, CEO, got a team to pay. What are we worth? Do brands talk? So I know it's a broad question of like rates up, rates down, think you don't go below this. But I'm like, if I love the brand and so on and so forth, I'm like, let's sign the deal for the 10K, man. Let's do it. And that might be half of what we normally charge. Thoughts on that?
I'm going to validate you here because that's the right mentality, dude. You're going to do deals that are going to might be the same exact deliverable, the same integrated or dedicated YouTube video, and you charge one brand 10K and one brand 20K. Because that is, you're helping them accomplish the objective that they've outlined within the budget that they have available. And so in the example that you shared with the 100K and they wouldn't negotiate upward and they've been a good partner, like you just make sure that you make that deal happen and the priority is continuing the relationship. And they just may have budget constraints that are out of your control. And yes, there's tactically things that you can do throughout the negotiation and the conversation to get creative with payment terms. Maybe you can stretch it and let them pay across multiple months or quarters or, not all at once. And like, especially if it's a smaller deal size and stuff like that, you could do stuff like that. But the absolute priority should be maintaining the relationship. And so it's a balance though, of course, because you want to make sure that you're, ensuring that you're adequately charging your worth and all that stuff too. But like, I will also validate that like your pricing has to have consistency per brand and per agency. So let me clarify that. So in my experience, if you charge an agency, let's say a media agency, an influencer agency, PR agency, one rate for a video or a partnership or whatever, just assume that everyone at that agency will now know how much you charge because they all work on various brands, on different teams, and they're going to circulate that deal, that contract with all their peers. Okay. So your pricing has to have consistency within that agency. Okay. On the brand side, in my experience, when you charge a brand 10K, 20K or whatever, like unless they have best friends who work in influencer marketing at another consumer brand that's in a relatively similar category to you, they're not going to be sharing the rates that an average creator charges on a deal because the deal dynamics are so different. And so a lot of creators are concerned about like switching up their rates between brands. But like, again, it goes back to this whole diversified stock idea. It's like, no, you work within the brand's constraints. Obviously you can have levers that you can move up and down based on what they're trying to accomplish, but no two deals are different. That's why I believe that a lot of the calculators that exist out there on the internet are hogwash, frankly, because they're completely, you're valuing yourself in a vacuum. All you're looking at is your metrics, your viewership on YouTube, your subscribership, and you're completely dismissing the brand's objectives, which in my opinion are the other 50% of the pie, basically, that you need to calculate. And so again, like I think that where your heart is right. I actually think you're right. Because even if I look at the deals that my wife and I are doing and how I educate creators, it's like you should look at the overall revenue that you're making from sponsorships on a given year. Don't get obsessed with the, this brand paid me 10% less or 20% less than this brand over here. It doesn't matter as long as you're serving the brand and helping them accomplish their outcomes and you're serving your viewers as well.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. What is the list off the top of your head of the levers? If you said, oh yeah, we can do integrated, but not ad reads. Oh yeah, I'll give you ad rights. And that's probably why it's good at interviewing in a sales situation. Chris Do has a lot of good information about this. Like, don't pitch your price because it's not like, oh, you wanted to run ads on this because they might not even be running ads. But if they do, and your knowledge of being able to, explain that. So ad rights. I mean, what are the other things? Like, what are the things to add and take away?
So I have something called the D.U.E rule, which is D.U.E, deliverables, right? So actually, what do they want you to do, right? Whether it's integrated, dedicated, what platform, how long, the kind of the nuts and bolts of like what you have to do, what you have to create as a creator. The U is the usage rights. So paid media is one type of usage rights, but sometimes the brands don't want to run paid advertising with it. But the reason that they want to work with you is so that they can take your video and repurpose it in other ways. For example, embedding it on their website, maybe putting it on a third-party e-commerce partner like Amazon or something. So they want to get your asset for that express reason. And so that should be charged differently than like paid media rights. That's like licensing to some degree, right? And then the E in the D.U.E rule is exclusivity, where the brand is saying, hey, you can't work with any of our competitors for a certain duration, right? And that represents a direct, opportunity cost if you were to make that deal if a competitor approached you in 5 years, or 5 months. But then there's other kind of tactical stuff, related to the payment terms. That's negotiable, right? Number of rounds of revisions. That's negotiable. There's all these like, maybe you're going to be doing consulting or strategy work for the brand. Like going back to what we were talking about earlier, like those are all aspects of things that are negotiable. But again, I really have to implore to go back to this whole, I call it my ARC framework, ARC. You have to understand the brand's objective. Is it awareness? Is it repurposing? Is it conversion? Is it a mix of all three? Because you should be charging brands differently based on their objectives. When I look at your business from the outside looking in and the tremendous reputation that you've developed, I feel as though, and you could correct me if I'm wrong if this is a false assumption, but optimization is like would be a really important theme of 2024 for you. Is like, okay, let's look at all the different things that we're doing. How can we optimize what we're already doing right to extract 20, 30, 40, 50, 100% more performance, revenue, efficiency out of everything that we're doing, because you've achieved a level of scale now where you can go to some of your vendors and suppliers and be like, hey, let's negotiate better, affiliate rates or better, costs on what we're ever spending in these areas. And so, hoping all these thought exercises we did today, got your brain working around sponsorships.
Oh, so valuable. So just love what you're doing. So pumped and just inspired and yeah, grateful.
Appreciate you, dude. So if people want to learn more about Think Media and you, where should they go?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'm really excited about what we're doing on Think Media, the big channel, but I'm really active on our podcast, really committed to 2 quality uploads a week. So it's called the Think Media Podcast. And that's it. You can find me, Sean Cannell, rhymes with YouTube channel on X and Instagram and everywhere. And here to help people build profitable YouTube channels, as well as figure out the tech side, streaming, tech, beautiful setup like you got, software, microphones, all that kind of stuff on Think Media. So been doing it for a while. Grateful for the opportunity.
Appreciate you, dude.